Chris Bull appears to be absent. Chris Patchell,
Here, and I'm in Carmel, California.
Pam Rowland,
Here.
Paul Tenney,
Here.
Benjamin Stanley,
Present.
Michael Harrison,
Here.
Joseph Buckman,
Present.
Sean Fletcher,
I am here in the city. Well, township, sorry.
Commission Liaison Eric Cunningham. Sean, do we have any guests?
I do not believe so.
Okay. Any changes to the agenda? Any special presentations? Approval of the January minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to read those?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions, comments? Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve the January minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Old business, we have expiring board positions. Looks like Chris Patchell. Sean, is that your topic or is that Shannon?
I believe that's accurate. I don't know his expiration date. Do you know when you expire, Chris, by any chance?
Not exactly, not without looking it up. So it's
Got to be sometime this year, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was last month. He was supposed to be voted on with Paul, but I think that was overlooked. So he's actually expired right now.
He was out last week, I think. So I think that's why it was
out last month. Yeah.
last month.
Yeah, I think you guys can either vote if he's interested in staying on, and then we would get the commission memo to the clerk, and then he could be reappointed if he's interested.
I thought was I would stay either until the exact expiration date or until you found a replacement. But I, at this stage, don't want to re-up for is it 2 or 3 years? I forget. But just to maintain a quorum, I'd be happy to stay till I can find a replacement or we find a replacement. I know we've got new members. Do we have anybody in the pipeline?
I don't think we've had any new applications come in since the last round, and we've added, as you see, 3 people. So, you dropping off is not gonna keep us from having a quorum. So that's really, I think we're in okay shape. We've been having great attendance recently, so that's good.
Okay, then I'll make this my last meeting, I guess.
Wow.
And of course, we don't want you to go, but obviously that'd be your decision.
Chris, do you perhaps know someone who would be interested in participating?
I have asked a few, and I got a couple, not right now, and I've got one out there that hasn't responded back to me. So
I think we had talked about it'd be nice to try to find more women for the committee. So that would also be a priority.
Yeah. Go ahead, Michael.
No, I agree. I think I agree with the statement. There's some more diversity in women. I don't know anybody in particular that has shown direct interest, but also haven't kind of tapped into my network to see who's interested. So I think that's something personally I can do to see if there's any interest.
Well, and we've discussed in the past diversity neighborhood wise. So, you know, we want diversity no matter what, but I think neighborhood wise would be nice as well. So at this point, Chris Patchell is going to be on the board tonight, and at that point, he's going to retire.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Ice skating in parks. Sean, do you wanna
Yeah.
give us an update?
Yeah, I sent an update, I think last week, and then I know Preston's been working on the Spring Valley rink. I can actually, we have the power to show photos. So there you can see, that's a kind of a long view. That's kind of looking west, I believe.
Yes.
But as you can see, it's a little melty, and we were having a challenge because we really didn't do any prep in the summer or fall. We really needed to do some work on the drain apparently and make sure we can plug it so that it would obviously hold water. And once we do, the other thing we needed to do is just some surface prep. And I don't know that we're going to have ice this year, but one of the things Preston wants to do is also paint that surface white so that it doesn't absorb the heat and we can have a better chance of having water, or ice. But there's just an example. And I want to give John credit. He suggested that we have some pictures available to show at our meetings if we're talking about a specific park or, you know, a maintenance issue or something like that. So he was nice enough to take these photos and send them along. And then Amanda was able to put them in a format that was easy for me to show on the computer. So I do think it's very helpful to kind of show what we're talking about, but I don't know that we're going to have ice this year just because we really didn't get a chance to prep it. And then also, obviously the weather's not been super cooperative, but kind of some lessons learned, I guess, by going through some prep stuff this winter.
It's actually a big space. I kind of measured it. It's about 150 by 50 feet.
Yeah,
so it's a nice space.
It is.
Yeah, and I think too, you know, if it's popular, you know, the public services has a couple light towers. You know, we could have some skating nights. So there's some, you know, if we get some good ice, you know, there's some program opportunities out there to really, you know, get some people out there and get people active. So we're excited about it. There's a couple of the park staff. I think one of the gentlemen on our team has actually built a home rink before. So he's excited about having some skate opportunities, some rink building opportunities. So we'll keep working on what we can this year, but most likely we'll do some prep work and have a couple sheets of ice, one in Spring Valley, and then we want to try and do one in Bronson next year because I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Now, Sean, we had talked about an ice rink that had been donated to the city. Did we actually accept that rink? Do we have it?
So it was offered to us. It was owned by what's now the Downtown Kalamazoo Partnership, and they sold it to somebody, and I can't remember who it was sold to, but it's no longer in this area.
Okay.
And it had the boards, which I don't know if would have been super interested in that. But I think we're gonna have ice at some point. We just won't be this year.
Yeah. And I don't know if that was necessarily the expectation. It was certainly a hope.
Yeah.
But we realized that perhaps the infrastructure wasn't there.
Well, and I'd like to get to the point too where, you know, from a project standpoint, we can have a rink that's refrigerated. That would make our lives much easier. And it's not inexpensive, but it would be really nice to have a refrigerated rink at Spring Valley. I think that would be really cool. And I think a lot of people would take advantage of it. So
yeah,
we'll kind of put that in our plans for the next couple of years and see if there's not some grant opportunities that we can take advantage of. Ben, did you have a question?
I was walking around downtown and I was wondering if we had ever thought about Arcadia Park. Is that something that we even could partner with them with?
So that's where the old, the rink that John was talking about used to be set up. And it was, you were at the, mercy of the weather because it wasn't a refrigerated rink. And it predates me, I believe. I don't know if it was set up during my tenure. I've been here 8 years. Maybe it did, but it's been a while. So I think the community would really like it. So we're going to keep plugging away at that for sure. And it was good to, see what we need to do this year from a prep standpoint for next year. And our parks team is ready to do what they need to do. We just got to hope that the weather works for us.
Right. Adopt a park. I think Benjamin wanted a little bit more information on board members being more involved in some of the parks. Ben, is that what you were looking for?
I guess just overall, like how, like even citizens, just anybody, how can anybody get more involved if they want to? So at the dog park, there's a lady that brings salt, dog-friendly salt, and she puts it down. And I'm like, hey, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And are there different ways that they can like be a part of a group, kind of like the planting group you guys were talking about last time?
So we are getting ready, and Amanda's got this on her list. We had actually had some meetings and discussions last fall about a more formal Adopt a Park program to where, like a small business or a civic group could adopt a park and then, do some cleanup or some light maintenance or some flower planting. So we're getting ready to kind of put that out there into the world. I think we were waiting until probably like March or April when the weather breaks a little bit. But we have kind of a process. People can request a certain park if they'd like, or a civic group could request a park if it's, a bigger park and they have 30, 40, 50 members. And then we can allocate some dollars for flower planting. We'll get them t-shirts and, we'll do some social media awareness around, if a certain group adopts a park. My daughter and my girlfriend and I have adopted Southside Park. So we were out there in the fall, did a little bit of work and just, some light maintenance, some tree pruning, some different stuff. And, we piled up a bunch of sticks and the parks crew comes by and, picks that up. And it's just, I think it'll be good to get, some people into the parks if they're interested in helping out. So it's a great point. And what I could do is bring some information to the March meeting, just like the flyer and such. So if you guys want to take a look at that, or actually what I'll do is I'll email it to you. If you have any questions, you can certainly let me know.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Organizing groups in parks. I kind of in the same vein, I guess I wanted some input from Chris Patchell, if he could provide it on his Crane Park group, how it was organized, how it's structured. Can you help us with that, Chris?
Natalie, it might want to correct me on a few things, but we were an evolution of 3 different groups. First, there was a group of volunteers that just volunteered to maintain certain beds, and that was neighbors and other people. Then as that kind of broke down, it became some of the garden clubs. We had a peonies, we had different groups would adopt a bed. But once again, over time, they would either stop their interest or whoever was involved would kind of break down. So the current group, which has been in place for, I'm going to say 8 to 10 years, was through the Master Gardener Association. And it gave the opportunity, because it was an approved site for the the new master gardeners to get their volunteer hours. And they have to do so many volunteer hours, and they have to do so many educational hours. And so Natalie combined those two efforts. It would bring in people that would talk about pruning, talk about the plants and so on for the educational side. And then we got the volunteer side from just working in the park each week. And she's maintained a database of the workers and would email them every week what we were going to do that coming week. So it was really spearheaded by her and kept together by her. And that's probably the most difficult thing, is having a program that has some continuity. As we all age out, we lose interest after a few years. And if there's not a program to keep it going, then it kind of wastes away. So, that would be my suggestion. Any organization that wants to get involved has to really have in place a continuity. Otherwise, it's just a one-shot deal, which is fine. One-time events to improve a park, clean up a park are fine. But if you want to do it like we work every week, and then we work some additional Saturdays at the start and at the end for cleanup and putting the beds to bed. But that's where the Crane Park volunteer group is spearheaded by master gardeners, but then there's a number of us that aren't master gardeners that volunteer.
Right. Well, I guess that was a comment we made at the last meeting, is if someone's organizing a group in, say, Crane Park, and that individual moves away, does that group then fall apart? And I think that's the reason Sean wants to do something more formal within the department.
And
Yeah.
promote it.
Yeah, I think there's two
Right.
key points there. One is promoting it and keeping it going. The other side is, to some degree, somebody with some expertise has to, if you're pruning and planting, the city tree committee is always talking about the right tree in the right place and so on. That goes down to flowers too. If you're putting in flowers where they're not getting irrigated, they're all going to die. So you have to have that secondary decision-making, either coming from the city or in liaison city, like master gardeners that understand what it takes to get a bush or a planting to grow. In the case of Crane Park, it's kind of funny. We have a color scheme, even though it's difficult sometimes to see it. And there was a person in there one day that was planting some things. And he just happened to be there at the same time we were. We said, "What are you planting?" And he said, "Well, I see all these lovely flowers, and I thought I'd just come down and put some flowers in here." Great effort, but kind of misdirected in the sense of, if he put in an invasive species or something, we would be battling it for years to come. So there has to be some coordination with the city, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Sean, did you have a comment?
No, I was just going to say, really promote it. And then one of the things we're going to do differently is our second special event coordinator would have some involvement in volunteer groups. So when we do on occasion get calls about, a small group of people want to volunteer. So we can have that person just kind of match them up with the right size park and the right tasks.
I just wanted to ask a quick question because I know Chris won't be with us anymore, just to get clarification, because I kind of heard two different things as he was kind of talking. I heard this Master's Gardener program that is kind of aging out of Crane Park, but is kind of, still around to do work that might be a potential opportunity to kind of expand, especially to introduce it to like younger populations to make sure we'll have consistency to kind of be master gardeners within these parks or even expand it outside of Grain Park. But the second is establishing a way for that Masters Gardeners Club to kind of explain some of the highlights or educational things that they learn to some of the residents, especially those in Crane Park, because I'm, around the corner all the time and don't have the kind of level of knowledge that some of the master gardeners do, which would kind of aid to just appreciation to the park or just even a presence, just kind of a different, way you show up when you know a little bit more about what's going on. So I think it's an opportunity kind of to build on what's already been done, especially that master's gardener program, and just kind of finding a way to kind of build on it, especially if it's already been done, and kind of organize in a way that we can kind of replicate and kind of build on, so we don't kind of lose that beauty that we have at Crane Park and kind of build on it.
Yeah, let me just add two things there. When I said aging out, I was really referring to myself and Natalie, who have been working here, not the entire group. Amazingly, COVID has caused a problem because the Master Gardener program has run no educational programs. They recruited no new members for 2020, and I believe it's going on into 2021. And that was, frankly, a source of some new young bodies, people that had done the course. And we kind of make known through different, the Westnedge Hill Facebook page and other things, the days that we're working in there, and anybody's welcome to come and join us, help, and they do gain some expertise by working with the master gardeners. I, for one, whenever I'm pulling a plant out or doing something, I always have to reach out and get somebody to make sure I'm doing the right thing to the right plant, because I don't want to get in trouble. But to answer the question, is the Master Gardeners is ongoing. They do educational programs. They are one of the core groups that run the Kalamazoo and Bloom Bronson Park plantings. And so they got their fingers in a lot of different areas. And I hope they can continue. But they're struggling like all other organizations right now. It's changing. So
If Natalie wants to promote that a little bit more, we could promote some of those educational opportunities through our social media, if that's something that might be helpful.
I will certainly pass that word on. Just as an example, when we did a tree workshop, not last year, but the year before, we had like 35 people attend that. Normally, we only have 10 to 15 working on any given day. So that particular day, we doubled the number of people there. And we also had a very large group when we were doing a pruning workshop. The other thing Natalie does, which some people may not be aware of, any garden club or any organization that wants a tour of the garden, she will do that for and they generally make a contribution to Kalamazoo and Bloom on behalf of her efforts. And she'll talk about the entire park along with some volunteers going through the whole thing. So if at any time an organization comes through that wants to know more about the park, they can liaison through and get that information.
I think we have a wonderful opportunity with the Youth Advisory Committee that's being formed, where their responsibility will be in part to learn more about the parks, what type of activities that are going to be probably geared more towards youth. And when I say youth, I like to include families. And so I think that we have some really good things going on with PRAB. We have the new adoptive park formal process that's being formulated right now in some of the conversations that we have. You know, we have criteria for these various groups that's going to be adopting the parks that's going to be helpful. But Kalamazoo and Bloom, and I think that maybe back in maybe 2014, 2015 or whatever, I think that the Crane Park, you probably work closely with Kalamazoo and Bloom. And so, and then their format, the way that they have everything planned out, I think right up until 2022, but then we have the COVID that happened. But I know that our group for the MLK Park, which is about like 30 years now, we're learning, and this is something that's really growing. And I think it's very important that we talk about urban gardening. I think that we need to talk about the street murals. We're doing, if things work out for the organization and some of the partners, there's a business, McNally Elevator Company. They have a building, they have two buildings. One, they're not utilizing and it's sort of like deteriorating. And so we're hoping that they will consider letting maybe us paint some type of a mural that would involve the youth. But I'm just thinking moving forward, and then, you know, there's such a need for us to occupy the minds of our young people. When we started years ago, it was like the girls never knew anything about gardening. I mean, if they shoveled and they dug up worms, they were screaming all over the place. Those that, you know, didn't have a problem with worms were throwing the worms at the girls. And so I think that, you know, moving forward with the adoptive park, organizing and things like that, I think COVID, depending on how things go, I think that we're going to have a pretty productive summer season, if not, you know, this summer 2022, we don't know. We just have to see how things go, but everything sounds so encouraging to me, even with the committee, you know, the ice skating and just, you know, hearing from you, Michael, and gonna miss having you too, Chris, but I'm excited and I love, you know, just riding through Crane Park. I love our parks. I mean, that's why I'm on this board.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Yep. Thank you.
New business. Grills in the parks. Benjamin, I think you suggested that topic.
Yeah, I was just wondering what it would take to add a grill or whatever to a park. How do people bring that up to the city or the Parks Department to make that happen?
I bring it up to us. Is there a specific park in mind, or?
I know that there was a group of folks at the dog park that I go to all the time that would cook burgers and hot dogs in the summer, and they'd put the grill in the back of the car, whoever was driving, and it was a little bit of a task, and we were all thinking about pitching in and buying one of those grills that you see at the beaches, and then we're like, we should just ask the city.
Yeah, you know what, I'll be honest, I don't know the criteria for determining what parks have them. I mean, that park is certainly big enough. It would be located outside the dog park fence, obviously, but yeah, that's not an issue. If we think people will use it, we can certainly add one there. I'll let our crew know, and they can probably install one in the spring once the ground is thawed enough.
Awesome.
And sometimes we just don't know if people would use them. And then we have other parks that have 30 grills and like 4 of them get used. So we've actually some of them, when they, just deteriorate and they're no good anymore, like the pan, rots due to the water and rust and such. A couple parks, we've just not replaced them because we know people aren't using, 25 grills. So
What would be the best way for people to communicate to the parks department for things like that? Like, hey, we want a grill, or we want I know a light has been something else that at that particular park people were asking for, or I know someone said last time shoveling sidewalks. Like, what's the best way for people to communicate that, I guess?
they can call 311.
Okay.
And once they call 311 and, share what their concern is, then a work order is generated. And we usually get to those, right away. We don't like those hanging out there. So
Awesome.
that's the easiest way, really. Or our general KZoo Parks email works as well.
Cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Benjamin. Thanks, Sean. We have one event recommendation for this month. Jamal Thomas Celebration of Success at Bronson Park, February 20th and 21st. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the application?
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
It sounds really way cool to me. The only thing I don't know with the weather, I mean, they're going to brave the cold to have that graduation. Isn't it in February? I mean, it's up to the organizers, but I thought it sounds really good.
Yeah, I agree too. It sounds like they're trying to set up time slots to let people in at the right number and give the people an opportunity to walk across the stage. Makes a lot of sense. It's outdoors.
With it being outdoors, I only had a question about like what the park's role was in it. Like, if it dumps 3 inches of snow the night before the event after it's already been approved, like how does the park adjust accordingly to make sure that the event pulls off, it's still a success for the winter?
So part of the beauty of the special event process is that it flows through our office, and then Shannon would let the parks folks know. We have a report that we generate so they know what events are where, and we would monitor the weather. That's part of Preston's role. He'd monitor the weather, and if we did get 3 or 4 inches of snow, he would make sure that staff was out there to clear what areas they needed cleared.
I'm
Go ahead, Pam.
I'm acquainted with the young man that's organizing that. I wasn't aware that he was requesting an event like this, but he's pretty responsible, and I think he's involved in community type activities, and so I think that everything would go well. Would expect that things would go well. I think he has his way of getting the information out. I don't see where it would be a problem, but is it possible if he were to request, is there any type of ways, heating devices or anything that could be put on the stage? Do we have the capacity to do that? Or could he bring any heating units himself?
If he wanted to do that, whatever he brought to the stage would just need to be approved by the fire marshal.
Okay. Because he didn't.
If it's the restaurant heaters,
yeah,
those are acceptable, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I think I would have to support that. Personally, I would support that.
I guess my only concern is that Commission Liaison Cunningham has expressed some concern in the past about COVID restrictions and our board approving these types of events. I think it's unfortunate that he's not here so that he could explain to us what he has heard from, I don't know if he's heard comments from other residents or other city commissioners. But I know he has expressed concerns that this board has been approving these types of events in the past. Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the current executive order? Gatherings outside are limited to 100.
I think they just opened up restaurants, what, yesterday?
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And if they can space out, and again, it all depends on what people do when they're there. Do they follow, the safe practices? And then, I think that was part of the issue was there was really nobody monitoring or enforcing whether people did what they were supposed to do or not, which, is just a general concern throughout the country with, whatever people are doing. Some people are really good about maintaining their 6 feet. Other people are just oblivious and they don't even think about it. So we can certainly, I know the event is this month, so I don't know if you want to check in with Commissioner Cunningham and see where he's at with that, or?
I guess I would like to make a decision tonight. I mean, this group, they've given us enough notice. I guess I would prefer to make a decision tonight.
Didn't we, back in the spring when we were approving some of these, put the caveat that they had to abide by
Right.
the state mandate? And I guess I would, just as a reminder that they need to abide by the mandate. It appears to me as if they'll be in compliance.
Right.
But that's not to say that they could get out of compliance. So at least we're on the side of having reminded them one more time that they need to be in compliance with the state regulations.
Yeah.
Ben had a question.
I think the cold will limit the number of people that are willing to show up, and they'll be wearing scarves and stuff. So I think that'll be a benefit. And then I also just want to say I think it's really cool that the public has the opportunity to not necessarily partake, but observe other people celebrating something. I think that's a pretty neat idea, actually.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion to approve this?
Absolutely. Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passed.
And Shannon can send out their reminder that they have to abide by the whatever executive orders and safety protocols that are in place.
Awesome.
Thank you. Are there any citizen comments?
Yes, there is one comment. Just 1 second.
Jeff Messer, city resident, daily walker through Bronson Park. On or shortly before Thursday, August 6, 2020, 2 new park rules signs were erected in Bronson Park immediately preceding a Kazoo Park's Summer Cinema free movie presentation that would attract dozens of community members to the park. These signs list a non-existent ordinance that was proposed to the City Commission, but resoundingly defeated 2 years prior on August 20, 2018. The signs read as follows: bedding, sleeping bags, personal belongings, or other materials established or maintained for the purpose of maintaining a place to dwell or sleep for a period longer than 2 total hours within a 12-hour period, whether or not such place incorporates the use of any tent, lean-to, shack, or any other structure, or any vehicle or part thereof is not permitted. Violators of park rules are subject to prosecution. Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety, 911 for emergencies. On the following Monday, August 10, I visited the city clerk's office and brought the errors to Deputy Clerk Shelby Moss's attention. She immediately got on the phone and notified Parks Director Sean Fletcher for correction. I made additional contacts and notifications in the following days, including informing park staff in person that Friday during lunchtime live. It is now 6 months later, and the non-existent ordinance remains posted on signs in Bronson Park and Veterans Memorial Plaza at Rose Park. However, the signs are not unchanged since then. The public safety telephone number has been stickered over with the consolidated dispatch number, and one of the words in the first rule has been changed. I am asking the PRAB chair to ask Director Fletcher to answer the following questions. Why was a non-existent ordinance posted in Bronson Park 2 years after the City Commission resoundingly rejected it? Why have two parts of the signs been altered, but not the non-existent ordinance? When can we expect to have these signs removed or corrected? Thank you.
And that was the only comment today.
Thank you. Sean, can you address that?
Yeah, so I know the term ordinance was brought up, and 2 years after the encampment that was at Bronson Park. And, we've worked with the city attorney's office regarding this language on the sign, and that sign is a park rule sign. And it specifically addresses, people can be in the park and can lay on a blanket and be there. But even subsequent to August, we had, people that were sleeping overnight in the park, which is not allowed. And that park rule gives public safety the ability to enforce the rule. And so that's it. And we work through our city attorney's office, regarding that language. And we did have some situations where we did have some complaints, and public safety had to respond due to some fights and some things that had happened, some excessive littering. So that's what that's about.
So Sean, there was an ordinance that was rejected, but a park rule still existed for the same activity. Is that what you?
Now the ordinance, going back a couple of years, was to take some ordinances that would result in criminal prosecution and make them a civil infraction. That was voted down. So it is still, you cannot camp in a city park. That's still there. This rule simply allows public safety to enforce, people who want to, camp in certain parks. And Bronson Park is not the only park where we've had some challenges. We've had other parks in the system. Mayor's Riverfront Park has been a challenge at times. So has Blanche Hull. So
I guess my interpretation of this phone call, though, is just that the person is misunderstanding that this is a rule.
I have responded
it's less to do
to
with whether
emails.
the rule's accurate or the rule's good or bad. It's just that they think that this rule doesn't exist. And so I think that that's the confusion. And I don't think we need to debate whether the rule is justified or not.
Yeah, and I did respond to Mr. Messer's emails, and I never heard back from him. So as you guys know, I'm usually fairly timely with my responses. And when people email us, email our department, I want to be as responsive as possible. And I did respond to his emails. So maybe there was a glitch and he didn't get those, but I have responded to him.
Thank you, Sean.
Welcome.
Unfortunately, our commission liaison's not here tonight. Sean, can you give us information as a Friends of Recreation liaison?
Yeah, not a lot happening right now. Our person is researching a number of different grant opportunities. So really preparing for the unknown as far as events and what we might be able to do. So I think there's been some focus obviously on the golf outing, which is not until the fall, but that'll be here before you know it. Time flies. And just researching a lot of grant opportunities, and then planning with our youth team on how to best support individuals that want to attend camp that may need some scholarship help. So
Is there a Friends of Recreation director? Is what?
Community Engagement Director is the title.
Okay.
And then we have the Friends of Recreation Board,
Okay.
which Ashton, Anthony, and myself, per city charter, are on that, sit on that board.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Parks and Recreation Director monthly report.
Yeah, I just have a couple things. If you haven't seen it, Shannon could probably send you a link, but we will have a winter scavenger hunt coming up. That should be pretty cool. I know she's worked hard on that, so keep your eyes peeled for that. It's been on social media. And then probably the big one is bids will be going out soon for the farmers market. I know this is our board chair's, this is his favorite topic. So hopefully those bids get out and we get some good pricing back. Kind of fingers crossed on that one. And then the contractor, the bid was awarded for the Lacrone splash pad that construction will start in April, as long as the weather works out for us. And then that one probably will be done end of July if everything goes well. So we would be able to get probably a month, maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks use out of it. So excited about that. And then I know we were rebidding the Millen Park dam removal. As soon as we hear something on that, I'll make sure you guys are updated. I know we didn't get the bid pricing we expected, and I know we tweaked the bid specs a little bit. So we should be getting, when that goes out to bid again, we should be getting some pricing, hopefully some better pricing on that. That's really it for me. I have a couple homework items on here that I'll follow up on.
Okay. It looks like an additional home was removed at the farmers market site for the road realignment.
Yep, that was the final house. That one was supposed to come down in summer of 2020, and I think it just got pushed back due to some COVID stuff. So,
okay.
Yep, that was the final piece of the puzzle as far as home demolitions and homes that we'd purchased. So, it's pretty exciting. And I think I've told you guys, we'll do everything site work wise. The only thing that won't happen will be the event shed building. So you'll essentially have a complete new site ready for use sometime in 2022. It's really contingent on the weather, but it'll be a year-long process.
Thank you, Sean. Any staff comments, Shannon?
I'll just add to what Sean said. We are going to be doing that scavenger hunt, which I'm really excited about. I think it's going to be a really cool thing for families. It's going to be in 15 of our different parks, and families that participate will be entered to win prizes and t-shirts. So I think it'll be really fun.
History Month, we would have a program in the cafeteria. They would bring us all together.
Thank you, Shannon.
We would sing the National Black Anthem.
Board member comments. Let's start with Chris Patchell.
Well, first, let me say it's been a pleasure. This is my second term on here, my second stint, because I won it way back 20 years ago as well. So I obviously enjoy it, and I look forward to continuing. Before I forget about it, I'm also the liaison to the tree committee. And so I don't want that to go blank for a few months before you realize that I'm supposed to be a liaison on the tree committee. So if you want to take that up at some point, somebody who has an interest in being on that advisory group as well. So I will still be involved in lots of ways, volunteering at Crane Park and being involved. So I will probably see some of you in the future, but it's been great, and it's time to get some new blood. So that's it. Thank you all for participating with me. So,
Thanks for your hard work, Chris. And we appreciate your hard work, and we appreciate Natalie's hard work as well.
yeah, thank you very much for both of us.
You're still required to show up to the Crane Park grand reopening whenever that happens.
I will be there. I still have my eyes and ears out there.
Any comments, Pam?
No, I shared enough earlier, so I'm fine.
Any comments, Paul?
Oh, yeah, thanks, Chris, for the time that you've been on the committee, that I've been on it too, and it's really been nice to have you there. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Any further comments, Benjamin?
I'm good, thank you.
Michael, any comments?
Just two quick ones for myself. So after our conversations or last board meeting, I kind of was thinking about Paul's comment about just how slippery the parks, concrete sidewalks are when they haven't been maintenance. So I just kind of want to bring that to our attention for maybe a future discussion, just to make sure that we are safe, and responsible on our end to make sure everybody's protected. And the second one is, I love Crane Park, but I have never, as we started talking about its view of the city, I have not seen it until all the limbs disappeared. So just some kind of thoughts about what we can do to make some of these parks really highlight what they are surrounded by and what they are. Like they're gems, but sometimes you don't really recognize what they are until things kind of disappear. So kind of setting up Crane Park and other parks to really shine in the city, if that means like maybe removing a few trees or maybe adding a few bushes just to kind of, make them the gems that they are. And the other comment I have is just to appreciate being a part of the group and just look forward to kind of the continued kind of conversation.
Thank you, Michael. Joseph, any comments?
No comments, John.
Thank you. I think that's it. I think we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. See ya.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Nora.
See you next month.
Thanks, Chris.
Goodbye.
Good night.
See you, Chris,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
See you later.